Before, after, she's still the one for me. Senator Barbara Boxer from California sits on the Foreign Relations Committee. As you know, I asked her if she would come on today and talk to me about the general gist of yesterday's testimony by General Petraeus, who is in charge of everything in Iraq. Senator Boxer, how are you?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm pretty somber, and it was a very hard day for everyone, I think, to go through this. I've been in this government for a long time. I've been elected for years and years and years, and I have never seen it this way because we just know in our gut that George Bush is just going to keep on the same track no matter what, no matter how bad things go, no matter who says what to him. And that's the sense of sadness, because in order to overcome that, we need 67 votes in the Senate and 2/3 in the House. Obviously, we're not there. Or a new president, and it's just not coming soon enough for so many, I fear, hundreds of our troops.
Well, I have a couple of questions that the audience put to me. I answered them to the best of my ability. I think I pretty much explained it, but I'd like to hear it from you. I know that, I saw Senator Biden on Hardball last night. He was practically crying. I mean, it pains me no end. I don't want to mention this really very often, but I am in touch with some of the ground pounders in Iraq. They found a way. They're listening to the show. Don't ask me how, because I won't tell you. But they are saying the only way out of here is to get us out of here. The Iraqis can build this place bigger, badder, and better, and they would have ownership of it. They are nice people. They are capable people. We like them. But we're stuck in the middle of something that we can't fix. This is crazy. We're exhausted. Some of us are on our 4th tour. I mean, the stuff I hear is just mind-numbingly heartbreaking. The emotions, I get chills on it. I'm going to cry too. But anyway, I understand what you're saying. Meanwhile, I have to, talk to people in this country who don't understand why Petraeus was asked the question about whether or not, and this was Senator Warner, the Republican from Virginia, who asked him whether or not he believed that Iraq was making the United States safer. And he said he never thought about it. He doesn't know. So the caller wants to yell at me and say that we should never have asked that question because he's just there to follow orders.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but you have to bring it out. And I think asking those questions just show that he's scripted, and he's got, look, he's quote-unquote a good soldier. Who was the last one they said that about? It was Colin Powell, remember? Mm-hmm. Who, doesn't speak out until, it's so late. So it's very distressing, and I think you have to ask these questions in order to get to to get to the truth, to see how he...
Well, can you imagine General Patton? Can you imagine General Eisenhower? Can you imagine any of our generals being asked the question whether or not their life's work in Iraq right now is making the United States safer, and Eisenhower saying, I have no idea whether or not this war is worth fighting? Mm-hmm. I mean, I couldn't catch my breath. I mean, I listened to you, I listened to Warner, I listened to Chuck Hagel, who obviously is very free now because he says that's it, he's not running anymore, and so he was out front yesterday. I know that the president was obligated under the original authorization to use force to report to Congress every, 60, 90 days? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We don't get reports, do we?
Well, we get paper reports, but the bottom line is where we are is a president who does not believe in checks and balances. It gets back to the very basics of the way he views his role, which really, is, I've said this before, as close to a dictatorship as we've come, and the right-wing blogs went nuts, so go ahead, guys, do it again. The fact is, when you have a president who signs all these signing statements, like 800 of them, challenging our laws, most of which were passed, by the way, by Republican Congress, saying that I'm signing this law, but I don't intend to enforce it. When you have a president whose policy is killing our kids, maiming them, breaking hearts, and all the rest, doesn't listen to anyone. Why doesn't he listen to the Brits? He was so fond of saying they're our best ally. They're out of there. And I was in London a couple of weeks ago, and I will tell you what they said. We're viewed as occupiers, not liberators, and that means we're the targets, and we're the ones who are, causing the problem because we're increasing the violence by our presence. And they pulled away, from Basra, and they went out to the airport. even Lee Hamilton and Tom Kaine just wrote an op-ed piece a few days ago in which they said that our presence in Iraq is recruiting al-Qaeda, which many of us said from day one. They are now saying. So here you have a situation where you have a president who won't listen even to moderate voices, okay? Even voices in his own party, let alone my voice, which, you know, he's chosen not to listen to.
Well, apparently...
By the way, I wrote him. Did you read my letter I sent him today? I don't know whether it came across your desk, but Natalie was going to send you this letter I just wrote to Bush, because it turns out that two of the people that I quoted in my testimony yesterday, do you recall the 7 sergeants and staff sergeants who wrote an op-ed piece?
Yes, in the New York Times, yeah.
And they had a very clear message, and the message is just exactly what you said, but they said it in the most eloquent way, and they basically said, you know, the Iraqis have to take charge of their own country. We are no longer viewed as liberators. Get us out of here. It's wrong. It isn't working. Let the Iraqis do it. We can help around the edges. Anyway, 2 of the 7 of them died on Monday.
Oh, no.
And so that's why I'm also, you can hear my voice, so crushed. So I sat down and I wrote the president. I said, you didn't listen to them when, you know, they wrote to you and they were trying to help you. Now 2 of them are dead. They've made the ultimate sacrifice. Can you please listen? So what is the president he's going to say on Thursday? He's extending the surge. He's extending the surge for 1 more year.
I know, and the newspapers are getting it wrong. They keep writing 6 months, 6 months. He's asking. I'm looking at the day. I'm going, no, this is another year. This is another year. And then he's going to advertise it as a withdrawal. It's not a withdrawal. The military's broken. I think Senator Webb was absolutely right. Senator Webb said the Marine Corps and the Army can't sustain these kinds of rotations. He has no choice but to call them back.
Of course. So here he says, I'm going to do this temporary surge. That's what he said in January.
Right, and it's an escalation.
It's a total escalation. It winds up now he's going to keep him there for a year and announces he's bringing the surge troops home in a year. That's actually 18 months of a surge that was supposed to be 3 or 4 months. So look, we're in a crisis in this country, and that's why, I mean, I don't know how much longer the patience can last in this.
You know what really shocks me about this whole conversation? As if Americans are the only people that can do this. I don't understand where I have seen your letter now. They just gave it to me, and I'm looking at this. Taxpayers have spent $20 billion to train more than 350,000 Iraqi security forces in counterinsurgency. Surely there are 30,000 Iraqis that are up to the task of securing their own country. See, this is exactly what I'm sitting here thinking. I wasn't even thinking of 30,000 Iraqis. I was thinking of 30,000 Saudis, 30,000 Syrians, 30,000 Jordanians, 30,000 neighbors.
But here's the thing. You don't even have to go that far. Again, we have spent $20 billion training 350,000 of the Iraqis. Mm-hmm. Now, surely they can find the troops there. Now, Petraeus told me when I visited him, and I reminded him of that yesterday, in 2005, these troops are great, they're ready to rock and roll, they're ready to go. So he was wrong then, but the fact is, since then, we've spent all this money, and we've trained 350,000. Nobody can tell me we can't at least hand over the surge to them. So I wanted to tell your listeners that when we get back to Washington, because we've taken a break for the Jewish holiday next week,
right,
we're going to go and have a series of amendments that are going to deal with Iraq, one of which I'm working on with a couple of colleagues, Barack Obama and Dick Durbin, and we're looking at just saying, no, the surge is over. Let's vote to end it. If the president wants to continue it with Iraqi staffing. And so that's just the basis of, I haven't dotted every last T and crossed, I haven't crossed every last T and dotted every last I, but that's where we are. That's going to be one of them. Of course, there are going to be some very important amendments coming up, and I hope that everyone will stay engaged and realize that peace is a process, and I'm old enough to remember Vietnam and how brutal and horrible it was, and we lost over 50,000. And, we had similar comments by